Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about how Cenk's nephew is just like those other girls, just like those other socialists, a trust fund brat that grew up rich his entire life, despite the fact that he continues to lie about this fact over and over again in different various podcasts to pretend that he did it all on his own. Now, I'm going to get into this. We're going to laugh at these clips. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who signed up over on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform. So first things first, I want to give a shout out to YouTuber XLP. You should go over and subscribe because it appears that this is the first individual to actually run this down. He did so 5 months ago. And as somebody who was a YouTuber at and around that range, who would do things where I would dig up all this information only to find other people rediscover and not give credit for it, I want you guys to make sure you attribute as much credit to this individual as humanly possible. Now, if you guys aren't aware, Cenk's nephew is in fact Cenk Uyghur's nephew. The reason he has a successful online political media career is due in large part to that fact. However, he is in horrific denial of that fact. That's one of the reasons why I constantly bring up the fact that he is in fact Cenk Uyghur's nephew. But it turns out that what Destiny had been saying for a very long time about Cenk's nephew is also true. This is a rich kid. He grew up on a large property where he would ride horses on the regular because he's not like you in any way, shape, or form. Not that this will matter to all of the Cenk's nephew simps out there. I know you're going to say, well, listen, he preaches socialism and Cenk's nephew said he was only barely, not even qualified for upper middle class. So don't worry about it, guys. He's just like us. And remember, the communist revolution is upon us.
So I grew up in Turkey to a relatively affluent family. And if you're like even a little bit affluent in Turkey, because of how massive the wealth gap is in a country like that, you're caked up in comparison to like American standards, where if a similar salary would not, or similar amount of wealth would not make you, upper middle class even.
So this is the first and most obvious lie for Cenk's nephew, because his father was actually a VP for a company called Sabancı Holdings, which happens to be a Fortune 500 company. And at points in time during his life, since his father is also a public figure, he was actually a lobbyist in the EU on behalf of this company and on behalf of the nation of Turkey. Not to mention the fact that Cenk's nephew's father actually is a political figure in Turkey. He's connected to the founding of a political party over there, but for some reason, he wants you to believe that he was barely or not even upper middle class.
In comparison to like American standards, where if a similar salary would not, or a similar amount of wealth would not make you, upper middle class even.
Now, for those of you who are unaware, in the United States of America, they rank upper middle class as $80,000 to $100,000. Do you legitimately believe that Cenk Uyghur's nephew, who had a father that was the VP at this Fortune 500 company that was going to the European Union to lobby the EU, that had horses that he was riding every day as a child, or often as a child, I don't know if it was actually every day, was only making $75,000 a year? Because again, he says barely, not even, not really upper middle class. That's what he's actually trying to put forward to you guys out there in the audience, that he was just a regular guy by American standards, but it was only because of the income inequality in Turkey that he actually seemed like he was a little bit wealthier compared to his compatriots. But honestly, they were all living in a mud hut basically. They had to hunt and forage for their food. It was a real struggle for Cenk's nephew growing up, only having a father that was a VP. He never made CEO. He wasn't the president of the company, and he was lobbying the EU, but he didn't get a chance to lobby the United States of America. So was he really that successful? What if they sent him to a crappy EU country? What if he was only lobbying in Greece or in Italy? No offense to Greece or Italy, but I'm trying to go by the size of the economies that we're talking about. He didn't make it to Germany, so no big deal. Don't worry about it.
But he was successful. I mean, he was like lobbying the Turkish government. He was like the right hand man in a holding group. You know what I mean? He he had some pretty serious jobs.
Now, what I love about this is that he says, oh, look, he was successful, guys. I mean, he was lobbying the Turkish government. He was the right-hand man in an unnamed holding group, which, by the way, his father's a public figure. He's appeared on television multiple times. He's listed publicly. You guys can go find him if you want. But he's like, he had some jobs. Like, one day he was a mechanic. One day he was, he's fixing a toilet. He was a plumber. And the next day he was the VP of a holding company, and then lobbying the Turkish government and a lobbyist for the EU government. Regular, ordinary, not even upper middle class lifestyle kinds of jobs. Don't you guys understand that's how his father grew up? It was just struggle every day. Honestly, when he had to ride his thoroughbred horses on his property looking like this, that was a struggle for him. That was difficult for him because, there was so much income inequality that the only reason he seemed like he had reasonable wealth, that under $80,000 is actually, it looks more wealthy than it actually is in Turkey.
But by the time I got to college, my dad lost everything, right?
So Cenk's nephew right there says, oh, by the time he got to college, listen, his dad, he just lost everything. He made some bad investments, as an ordinary, not even upper middle class American by comparison, as the VP of this company that was lobbying the Turkish and the EU government. He just lost everything, and it was fine. He was okay with it.
Which is fine. I mean, I still had a lot of the benefits of a early upbringing.
So first of all, I don't believe Cenk's nephew when he's like, oh, it was okay that he lost everything because, I'm all about the struggle. I mean, I got a trust fund. Don't you guys get confused about that. I have my college paid for by my wealthy father and all that. But, he lost everything. But I'm just like you guys. When my parents are successful, when they're making $73,000 a year, wink, wink, and then they lose everything in the middle of college, I just shake it off. Because it's no big deal to me because I'm just like you. Hello, fellow humans. My name is Cenk's nephew and I'm just like you. But another reason I don't believe him is because if your family lost everything, if there was a big blow to your finances and whatnot, chances are you'd have a little bit more information than this.
Could you tell us, do you mind telling us how he lost everything or what?
Futures trading.
What happened in that?
Just gambled, basically.
Yikes. Okay.
This is like watching a low IQ individual in a police interrogation. You see Graham Stephan, and I'm not familiar with the other guy that's also the co-host of this podcast. They're finance guys. They understand this because Graham Stephan, at least from what I know, built up his whole portfolio on his own, started out with a real estate license, I believe at the age of 18. He might have been at the age of 20. Somebody correct me out in the comments. So the idea of his father losing everything, futures trading, that might be something that scares off the regular commie who's an economic illiterate, but they want to know what's going on. So they start throwing out information to him, and Cenk's nephew, like an idiot in a police interrogation, starts repeating back that information immediately because there is no truth to this story. I don't believe it because Cenk's nephew is a liar, and it looks like right here, he is lying.
Had he been doing that for a while and seen some success and then just kind of went all in on it or something?
Yeah, pretty much, I think. I'm a little murky on the details. Like, I don't think he's never fully brought it up. You know what I mean?
He's never really brought it up. I mean, we were just a regular, ordinary, had a bunch of horses on the property. I'm dressed like a freaking supervillain kid that probably bullied Lex Luthor in Smallville. But, we just lost everything. And he never explained why. He never explained why we went from, $73,000 to working poor. Let me just look up the working poor. It's $30,000. That's what we ended up making. He never explained that. It's just so sad, man. I'm just like you fellow humans. Like when your father loses everything, futures trading, and he loses his cushy $72,000 a year job, you also go and get handed a job by your uncle, and that's what you do, and you start your Twitch career, obviously.
At the time, you guys probably know this, but if you don't, my uncle has a YouTube channel called The Young Turks. It was like a 26-person shop. It was like a tiny operation, not that big. not that media behemoth or anything.
So the next thing that is absolutely hilarious about this is the fact that Cenk's nephew tries to pretend that the Young Turks was a rinky-dink small little YouTube channel back in 2013. Now at this moment in time, the channel had well over 1 million subscribers, and it was really the largest online political show. Maybe you could compare it to the Alex Jones show on YouTube.
So I was like, yeah, I'll just go work with him, do an internship with him, and I'll live in LA and I'll study for the LSATs. I had no interest in studying for the LSATs or going to fucking law school. So yeah, I started working there, and then I was like, yeah, maybe I should just like work with him instead. And at first it was really awful because I had no money and the Young Turks didn't have any money either.
Now, I'm not saying that the Young Turks was this worlds away successful company, but I have seen the Cenk Uygur produced movie Mad as Hell, Rise of the Young Turks, and the idea that Cenk was still working out of his bedroom or his second bedroom in his apartment, like in the origin of the company 10 years previous to this, back in like 2003, is absurd and ridiculous in every possible way. But the thing is, Cenk's nephew is a fraud through and through. A lot of these people will talk about how other people who earn their success, earn their wealth, are the nepotism types. They're people who didn't actually earn it. They exploited other people and all of that, and nobody makes it on their own. But the thing is, that comes from a deep-seated insecurity on their end, because the reason these people are communists is because they think, well, if I didn't earn it, nobody else could have possibly earned it. But at the same time, they're scared of the fact that they received every single break throughout the course of their life. So when it comes to their own personal success, they always attribute it only to them. It's a weird psychological loop that this guy is going through, and it's what requires him to continuously downplay the success and the help that he got along the way, when he should just own it. He should just say, hey, look, I come from a wealthy background. My father was not making $69,000 a year like I'm pretending right now, barely upper middle class in Turkey. I was actually a wealthy kid. I had the setup. I had all the advantages. It wasn't that much of a risk for me after I graduated college to go work for my uncle, where I was guaranteed a job and given chance after chance until I landed on internet communists as my path forward. And by the way, this is 100% true. As I've pointed out before on this channel, and as XLP has at the end of his video, Cenk's nephew's original plan was to do a show called Bro Tip, where he would do pickup artist crap.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. I'm Hassan Piker, and this is Bro Tip, where I'll be giving you just a tip every week, just for a little bit. For our Social Gurus segment, I'm going to let you know how you can get laid because you currently sit in your mother's basement and watch YouTube videos all day. Our Bro Tip of the week is going out to all the wallflowers. This is a little thing me and my friends like to call the 5-second rule. What is the 5-second rule, you might ask? The 5-second rule is exactly when you see a girl for the first time ever and you don't think for longer than 5 seconds and you immediately react.
But that's the thing. When you watch those Bro Tip clips, and again, I'm trying to use clips from the XLP video as sparingly as possible, link to it in full in the description, you'll realize that the reason why he wasn't able to be successful doing this type of content is because he has no comedic timing, no charisma, nothing like that. And that's why he ended up moving into internet politics. Those who can't do teach, you might have heard. Well, those who don't succeed in entertainment end up becoming political content creators. Also, thank you for subscribing to Actual Justice Warrior, the political content creator show. Links in the description to the support links for this channel.
I needed to no longer be in the shadow of the Young Turks, no longer be in the shadow of my uncle. Because no matter what I did, everyone was like, nepotism. That's the reason why you're successful. Nepotism. That's the reason why your Facebook, popping off. Nepotism. It's like, well, he's not doing fucking Facebook videos. Like, what do you mean? He literally can't. Like,
again, just listen to how pathetic he sounds right here. So people, by the way, this largely came from me. I was one of the first people to call him Cenk's nephew in a video I think I did all the way back in 2017, and he really don't like the fact that people have started to recognize this and understand this, but he's like, oh, my Facebook videos weren't successful because of my uncle. He didn't even do Facebook videos. That was all me. It doesn't matter that I was on the Young Turks platform, which was an established brand name, that I had every advantage, that I was promoted and all that I had the company protecting me whenever whenever I said something stupid or ridiculous, I did it on my own. I'm basically like Scott Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's kid, who, you know, for a while he operated without his father's last name as attached to him as an actor, didn't get any parts, but then once that relationship came through and everybody understood that he was Clint Eastwood's kid, he started being successful, but that was due to the work he put in on his own. Just like me, I put in all that work on Facebook, and by the way, I used those Facebook videos to promote my own personal Instagram and my own personal Twitch, so this is exactly how I got my start, but trust me, bro, it's all on my own. My uncle wasn't even doing 5-minute videos on Facebook that were in the format that I was doing that were terrible and horribly unentertaining and interesting.
You know? So I was always like trying to move the audience from TYT Properties to something that I own, like, you know, my Instagram.
Yeah.
They were not too fond of that.
But that's the thing about people like Cenk's nephew. They have no confidence, no belief in themselves. They're absolute frauds in every possible way. And in reality, when they talk about the greed of Wall Street or the greed of corporations or the greed of the billionaire class, they're actually describing themselves, their own desires, their own wants, but they can't cope. They can't align with that. Cenk's nephew grew up wealthy, he grew up incredibly privileged, and he wants to maintain that privilege. And one of the things that he likes to do is go off and attack people who are less fortunate than him while downplaying his enormous financial success. One of my favorite clips actually doesn't come from the XLP video. It comes from a guy called Kamal. And again, I will link this in the description of this video. You watch it in full. It's 30 minutes long, is really good. Is this clip of him 1 month before he bought his $3 million house, attacking a streamer on Twitch and saying that he doesn't understand how a streamer can make this much money because that streamer bought a $2.9 million house.
Unimaginable wealth, dude. How the fuck do people make this much money? $2.9 million near Las Vegas? Dude, oh my fucking Lord, dude.
And then less than a month later, he buys a house even more expensive than the one in the video.
Look, I understand that if you're one of Cenk's nephew's fans, you're already lost. There is no reaching you. You think, oh, he was victimized into buying a $3 million house. That's just what houses ended up costing in our capitalist system, and you can't fault him for functioning in society. These are legitimate arguments that I've heard before. He also has a $250,000 Porsche, but we're not even talking about that. I think it's incredibly important to understand that just like Carlos Maza, whose stepfather is also a billionaire and also provides for him to be able to do all the ridiculous things that he does, also an internet communist, just like Vosh, whose parents grew up in Beverly Hills, these people are in denial of who they are. They are the elites. They think that they know better for you than you do for yourself, and that's why they're socialists. And the fact that they're in such denial of their privileged status is absolutely hilarious. For example, me on this channel, I did build this on my own. In fact, I was going to do this channel with a bunch of friends, but I couldn't get any of my friends that I'd known for years to commit to working on a group project that had no guarantee of income. So I decided to quite literally make a channel where I could do this on my own, and it's become successful due to the work that I put in. But that doesn't mean that I didn't have help. That doesn't mean that I didn't have support. My current fiance actually called one of my relatives and decided that they were going to split the cost of my first camera, $600 for a Canon T5i back in the day. My fiance also gave me the first laptop that I would use to edit, $252 for a 2011 MacBook Pro off of eBay. That's something that she delivered for me. Now, I didn't get a major shout out or anything like that from a larger creator, but one of the people that's helped me behind the scenes is Lauren Chen. I was not making any revenue basically on this channel, nowhere near what I should have been. And Lauren Chen was like, hey, hook up with this network. They'll get you the in-video reads and you'll actually have more income. And that has allowed me to earn a lot more on this channel, to put in more work, to make this a more viable and sustainable job. I've also been able to do live appearances, debate panels, and other people's shows occasionally. And those were largely hooked up also by Lauren Chen, by the way. Really do appreciate her. Very cool person behind the scenes, if you guys are not aware. And I'm perfectly comfortable sharing that because I've nothing to be insecure about. And by the way, if I got a shout out from a major creator when I was at like 10,000 subscribers that jumped me up to like 200,000 or whatever, I would acknowledge that. But Cenk's nephew is in full denial mode. The Young Turks, the largest online left-wing media program on YouTube, that was just a small rinky-dink channel when he got there. They were barely doing anything. When he started streaming and Destiny helped him out a lot, oh, well, Destiny was just a guy that played video games and sometimes talked about politics, really had no way of introducing me to other people or setting me up on Twitch and gave me no advice. Because Cenk's nephew did it on his own. And by the way, he wasn't even raised wealthy, guys. This was a guy who was raised not even upper middle class by American standards. I mean, his father was just the VP of a Fortune 500 company lobbying the Turkish government and lobbying the EU. But he lost absolutely everything when he went to college, and Cenk's nephew was fine with it because he's such a good guy. And that's the thing. He just continuously lies over and over and over again. Recently, he said something like he only makes about what a doctor makes in terms of salary. The Twitch leaks that came out a couple of years ago showed that he was making well over $200,000 a month just from Twitch, just on his main account. That doesn't count merchandise, that doesn't count the other shows that he does, that doesn't count YouTube ad revenue and all of that. Just from Twitch, he was pulling in $200,000 a month. And again, that was a couple of years ago. That is not what your average everyday doctor makes. In fact, if you're a doctor and you make $200,000 a year in a lot of parts of the country, that's considered a relatively decent salary. Now, there are some specialized practices, cosmetic surgery and whatnot, where you would probably be able to make that much more. If you were a dentist, a high-end Manhattan dentist, you would probably be able to make that much more or more than Cenk's nephew, at least according to just the Twitch earnings. But in reality, you're raking in the money. You're exorbitantly wealthy. You got wealthy because you were set up for success by your wealthy father, by your wealthy uncle who was connected into media, and you were able to launch yourself as a parasite off the Young Turks into your own success. And then when you were done with Cenk Uygur, you decided that you were going to leech off of Destiny. Just acknowledge who you are. Acknowledge how you got there. Stop with this, oh, nobody earns on their own. Nobody builds anything themselves except for me, because it's embarrassing. You're an embarrassment. But hey, those are just my thoughts, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, then show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on my social media. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about what an absolute fraud Cenk's nephew is. Till next time.